New damn biddens. Welcome to a guide of how to build a Warlock. So this is Season of the Deep in 2023, and we've just gotten upgrades for a lot of the arc classes and what have you. And some of my friends have been asking, Skinley, how do you get so many arc buddies all of the time and do so much damage with your arc weapons all of the time? We're gonna look at the build that I use for that. So to start off, we're going to be using Stormcaller just because Chaos Reach is the better of the two supers in my opinion. We're going to be using Healing Rift. I take Burst Glide just because I like the movement. We're going to use Ball Lightning, although you can use your Chain Lightning. That's entirely up to you. And then I would recommend using Pulse Grenades or Storm Grenades. Anything that has like a pulsing effect is usually better, or like Lightning Grenade, anything like that. But then for our aspects, we're going to take Arc Soul, obviously, so that when we cast our Healing Rift, we gain an Arc Soul, and any teammates that run through it will gain an Arc Soul as well. And when it's amplified, our Arc Souls are supercharged, and they gain an increased fire rate, so they're going to be doing even more damage. And then I personally take Electrostatic Mind. Defeated targets with arc abilities, defeating jolted or blinded targets create Ionic Traces. Now this is an important one, because when you collect an Ionic Trace, you become amplified. So already your two artifacts are kind of working in tandem with each other. So when we have our Arc Soul up, it's going to get amplified by killing things, and then when it's amplified, it does even more damage and kills more things. So it's already stacking pretty well together. And then for fragments, I use Spark of Discharge. Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create Ionic Traces. Defeating a jolted target creates an Ionic Trace. Your arc grenades jolt targets, so that ties in with that one. So when you throw an arc grenade, it will jolt them, and then when they die, it creates arc traces for you. And then Spark of Beacons, which is while you're amplified, your arc special weapon Final Blows create blinding explosions, just because we're pretty much always going to be amplified, so there's no reason not to. And then for your equipment, I would strongly recommend that your exotic for your armor piece is going to be the Fallen Sunstar. Now the reason for that is because of its passive, which is Ionic Conductor. Ionic Traces you create move faster and grant you additional ability energy, and nearby allies also gain ability energy when you collect an Ionic Trace. Because as you can tell from this build, we are going to be dumping out Ionic Traces left, right, and center, because everything we do should generate an Ionic Trace, which means we're always amplified, which means we do more damage, which means we have almost infinite rifts, which means we also do like loads of damage with our arc buddies, and so does everybody else. Now for the mods for the armor, I take Ashes to Assets just because you get extra super energy from your grenade kills. And then on your gloves, I say use Firepower, because if you kill anything with your grenade, you have a chance to create an Orb of Power. And then on your chest piece, I would say put on a couple of charged up mods, so you get even more stacks of armor charge every time you pick up an orb. And then on the boots, the critical piece here is this bit, the Elemental Charge. So collecting a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, or Void Breach, or destroying a Strand Tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. Now, because we're going to be dumping out Ionic Traces all the time, this is going to keep us pretty much constantly at max armor charges all the time, and we're going to have maxed out recovery to give us our Baby Well or our Rift back as many times as we can, because then we have all the Arc Souls in the world. And then obviously throw on a couple of Arc Weapon Surges, because they cost 1 this season if you take the right perks, which I'll show in a second. And then for our Idle Bond, or our Bond at least, I take a Time Dilation just to slow down the armor charge degradation, and then take the Reduced Grenade cooldown when using your class ability, because we're going to be spamming our Rift over and over again. We'll get our grenades back, which means we can kill things, which means we get our... So it's a whole thing. And then for weapons, your exotic weapon, I would strongly recommend the Delicate Tomb Fusion Rifle. Now, the reason for that is because of its perk, fires a wide horizontal spread when shot from the hip. Final weapon blows from this weapon have a chance to generate ionic traces. Powerful foes and opposing guardians always generate ionic traces. So this weapon itself will be stacked with all the armor charges that you're getting and the arc damage mod, and then when you kill things, it has a chance to create ionic traces while your arc buddy is also shooting everything else to generate ionic traces. It's hilarious how many ionic traces and things that you'll create, especially because of the repulsor regulator this season. I would strongly recommend you take the authorized mods arc, which lowers the cost of your arc mods. We're gonna take Thunderous Retort because grants bonus arc super damage if cast when critically hurt. So if you're really injured and you want to throw your super out, it does even more damage. And then Electric Armor, you stay amplified for even longer with an arc subclass equipped. We're going to take Amped Up because you gain damage resistance while you're amplified. Not that we need it because we're going to be standing in our rifts pretty much 24/7. I take Countercharge just because if we're against any champions, we stun them, you get armor charges for free. And then I would also recommend taking Shock and Awe, which is arc final blows while you are amplified summons a burst of lightning that jolts your target. Now remember, if we kill anything that is jolted, we gain an ionic trace, which makes us amplified, which means we can then summon a burst of electricity, which jolts targets, which makes us amplified with ionic traces. So you can see we're kind of creating like an infinite loop here. And then the final one, I would say, take Lightning Strikes Twice, which is after throwing an arc grenade, you gain increased grenade recharge for a short duration. Arc Final Blow's extended duration of this benefit. So essentially, you will have infinite or near infinite rifts and near infinite electric arc grenades. And you can just melt everything because half the time your arc buddy is going to be spraying his little electric shots everywhere, and we'll be doing just insane amounts of damage. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to Sorrow's Harbor. We're going to start up an event here, and I'm just going to put the rift down, and we can just see this class go to work. So we put down our arc buddy, and we just let him go to work. Because see, it's already generating ionic traces, which means we're amplified, which means we do a ton of damage. And then we fire the Delicate Tomb, and already we're doing really big damage. And I have my rift back immediately before it even ends. Like, it's so strong what we're doing. And I have my rift back again. Like, before the other ones even ran out, we have our rift back, and there's our grenade back. And then we have our rift again. So you can see that this build is a little bit ridiculous. Especially because the amount of ionic traces and things that it creates means that we don't really have to do anything. Especially if, like, we have teammates like this, because then they will pick up the arc buddy, and the arc buddy will shoot more enemies, and they'll also grant us ionic traces. So yeah, this is your fun warlock build that I would strongly recommend you have, because you're near invincible, because you just stand in your rift and let it take care of everything for you, and you have damage resistance, almost infinite grenades. Like, you'll get your grenade and your rift back as long as there's enemies for you to shoot. As long as there's enemies for your ionic trace, for you to create ionic traces with, you'll pretty much never run out of arc souls. And because you're always killing things, you're always amplified. So have it and enjoy.